Hey man, say man, this is the A-Man Show back at it again for more content. Man, Sacramento will continue to implode each and every day we watch them play. Since their magical season in 23 where they were the second seed in the whole West and was one game away from winning their first playoff series since '04, but Steph Curry appeared. But aside from that, the Kings during that time were no joke, and I made a video based on that. But since then, the Kings will continue to back to their nonsensical way of destroying their roster brick by brick, firing their head coach in Mike Brown, who led the Kings to the most success they have since the early 2000s. They traded their franchise guy and De'Aaron Fox along with Kevin Huerter in exchange for an older DeMar DeRozan and a Zach LaVine, and eventually led to the position now in 2025 where the Kings are now 5-16. They currently have one of the oldest rosters in the league. They don't have any promising young guys on the roster. I mean, the Kings continue to show the league what not to do as far as building a competent roster in general. So in this video, I'm finna discuss why the Sacramento Kings are a joke. But before this video starts, make sure y'all subscribe, as the majority of y'all are not subscribed to the channel. My goal is to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so subscribing, smashing the like button, and turning on post notifications makes a big difference. And that out of the way, let's get to it with the video. So Sacramento since 23 has been a mess. I mean, this team as a whole, the year before 24, they had a top 2 offense in the NBA, and De'Aaron Fox being the most clutch player in the NBA helped them a lot as well as Mike Brown being coach of the year. But defensively, they have been really piss poor, and that led to the Warriors getting the edge over the Kings in the playoffs. The very next year, not only their defense did not improve, but offensively, they gotten worse. It really because the duo in Sabonis and Fox, teams started figuring them out. Outside of De'Aaron Fox, the Kings don't have that many shot creators. Teams started trapping Fox a lot more often and under screens, and most importantly, packing the paint a lot more, and that's another reason Fox's shooting percentage decreased from 57% from 3 feet to 10 feet from the rim, and even from 0 to 3 feet. He went from shooting 81% to 72% from that area, and with no secondary shot creator to pair alongside Fox, the offense became very predictable. Not just Fox, but Sabonis was also figured out in that same season and also in the playoffs the year prior, as teams sacked off of Sabonis, forcing him to shoot, which will then shrink the floor for both Sabonis and Fox to drive to the rim, and specifically Sabonis, preventing him from doing handoffs. Not just that, but the whole team was very inconsistent shooting-wise. Keegan Murray was more inconsistent compared to his rookie year. Huerter has regressed shooting-wise. Harrison Barnes became more streaky, and the bench became more unreliable shooting-wise, and that led to them being the 9th seed in the West, despite them only winning 2 less games compared to the season prior. The Thunder has passed them up, the Mavericks passed them up, the Clippers, the Grizzlies, the T-Wolves, hell, even the Darvin Ham-led Lakers passed them up in the standings. And what's worse is that they will get smacked by a Zion-less Pelicans team that they have no business losing to in the play-in, despite being Golden State. And then we get to the offseason where the Kings participated in a 3-team trade where they traded for an older DeMar DeRozan, who's a black hole on offense and a near liability on defense. Looking at this trade, everyone knew that this trade does not make any sense as far as the fit goes, and it was going to slow down the pace, which is the main foundation for the Kings' identity, especially in that magical 23 season. The following year, which is last season, where the Kings will take another decline, where defensively they were anus. They struggled at closing out shooters. They were allowing too many blow-bys and threes. They started the season 13-18 despite the bad defense in the rotations, which some is on Mike Brown, but he did lead the offense top 10 in offensive rating either way. Because of this start, the Kings decided to fire Mike Brown, even though he's been the reason why the Kings became relevant. And then eventually Fox will be in the trade block and eventually deal to the Spurs in a 3-team deal in which they will get Zach LaVine. Basically another iteration of the Chicago Bulls, but in Sacramento. It was clear that the Kings were simply not good enough to be a playoff team. Offensively, it was keeping the Kings afloat for many other games, but without Fox in the roster, it really hurt the playmaking on offense, and defensively, they gotten worse. Because with the LaVine addition, we all know that LaVine is a defensive liability on the perimeter and nowhere near the playmaker compared to Fox, and the same thing goes with DeRozan. The Kings will finish the season below 500 with a 40-42 record and got bounced in the play-in against the Dallas Mavericks. Now in the offseason, the Kings thought it was a good idea to sign Russell Westbrook, who is actually playing really solid for the Kings as a role player. giving you 14, 7, and 7 on 44% from the field. A surprisingly 39% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, and 63% from the charity stripe, which is not good, obviously. Aside from that, the Kings are currently 5 and 16. They have a bottom 3 offense and defense. And funny enough, they have one of the oldest rosters in the NBA, and their starting lineup is an average age of 31 years old. Yes, 31 years old. Aside from Russell Westbrook, they have no legit playmaker on this roster. No one on this roster can defend at a high level. Plus, they are too old. Usually, when you set up a roster this old in today's NBA, you're just not going to get this far. We just saw the Thunder and the Pacers face off in the NBA Finals last year, and the average age of both rosters are 24 years old. And not just that, but they can defend, shoot, play make, and of course are athletic. The Kings don't have any of this. Instead of trading for DeMar DeRozan, they should have used that Fox deal to get a Spurs lottery pick or multiple and draft Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey. Hell, both of them, in which I hardly seen them drafting these guys, given their historic track record of drafting bust after bust. Instead, they are left with a 36-year-old DeMar DeRozan, who is a black hole on offense and a liability on defense. About to be 31 years old, Zach LaVine, who was putting up empty stats on offense, who was also a liability on defense, a 32-year-old point guard, and Dennis Schroeder, who was a piss-poor offensive player, and a 37-year-old Russell Westbrook. Like, the Kings continue to be the Kings of old. This roster does not make any sense. They don't fit with one another, especially the duo of LaVine and DeRozan. We all knew that this duo doesn't fit with one another, and the Kings decided it would be a good enough move to bring both of them to Sacramento. Like the incompetency of this franchise continued to baffle me. And looking at this team's payroll, they are top 5 in the league with the least amount of cap space. How does it even happen? Sabonis have 2 years left of his 5-year, $215 million extension. Keegan Murray's contract extension won't kick off until next year, and this contract will end going into the next decade. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan has 1 year left of their deal. Malik Monk has 2 years left of his 4-year, $78 million deal. I mean, they invested all this money just for them to have a 5 and 16 record going to December. And it looks like the season for the Kings is already over as we speak. If the Kings are competent enough, they would have blown this roster apart and go on a rebuild long ago. But since they are the Kings, they find ways to put themselves in harm's way, and that's either from drafting busts left and right, Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic, signing aging veterans that does not fit in this roster, trading away your best players and or players that has upside is now flourishing with another team, aka Tyrese Halliburton and Isaiah Thomas and Boogie Cousins of the past. The Kings continue to find themselves in NBA purgatory. Although I've spoken countless times about how this LaVine and DeRozan duo don't mess with one another, I want to talk about Domantas Sabonis and how his game is simply not winning basketball. Hell, I don't even think that he's even a legit second option on a championship team. His game is too predictable. He plays the game way too safe. He is not aggressive to the rim at all. Therefore, he doesn't really take over games like a Nikola Jokic can do. And with that, teams find it easy to game plan him by sacking off of him and forcing him to shoot, in which he is not a legit threat from 3, as well as targeting him on the perimeter and in the post defensively, because he is not a threat from there defensively. This is a guy who relies heavily on the dribble handoff system with Murray, Herter, and of course Fox on the floor. But since both Herter and Fox are gone, you can see how much his assists per game has decreased over the years while still being that passive big man he is. Hell, even in the Warriors series a couple years ago, Sabonis was getting picked apart defensively and offensively. He was limited from being a 19 points per game scorer to a 16 points per game scorer while shooting 10% worse from the field, and he averaged 4 turnovers per game despite him dishing out 5 assists in that series. He almost averaged as many turnovers as assists. Why? Because the Warriors played drop coverage on Sabonis and had Looney and Draymond Green in the paint, in which forced Sabonis to shoot threes, in which he was never comfortable doing that, and he even at times got out-muscled and overall got out-rebounded by Kevon Looney, for crying out loud. Sabonis' game, aside from being a good playmaking big man and a great rebounder, there's not really anything he does extremely well. He has a decent mid-range and post game, not bad but not great. He's not a threat from three, and defensively he's below average. And so far, the contract he signed a couple years back, he's not living up to his 5-year, $250 million contract. And as far as the trade block goes for Sabonis, there's not many teams that can trade for him that fits with his playstyle and for the team that he's on. And going to Keegan Murray, it was a confusing move from the Kings front office by giving Murray a 5-year, $151 million deal. Yes, he is a 3-and-D type guy, which is very valuable in today's NBA, but since his rookie year, he has taken a nosedive as far as the numbers goes, especially from 3, and he still hasn't been able to create offense for himself. Even though he's putting up 18 a game on great efficiency so far this season, despite him shooting low from 3, it's only a 6-game sample size. I really need more games of him putting up really solid numbers and shooting splits, especially from 3, in order for me to consider his contract a good move. But aside from that, the Kings since 23 has really imploded and went back to the Kings of old. And things will never change until the owner of this team and Brevek Renadive decides to sell the team. The Kings will always be viewed as a joke of a franchise. And that's the video. Let me know your thoughts on the video. Are the Sacramento Kings forever a joke? Like I said, let me know, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more NBA content and turn on post notifications so that way you don't miss any new videos I put out. And that is all. Stay litty. This is the A-Man Show. Sign out.